AnnaSophia Robb plays the younger version of Reese Witherspoon's character Elena on Hulu's limited series Little Fires Everywhere. I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with AnnaSophia now. And so my first question is really the big question. How did you channel Reese Witherspoon in the way that you did? Because I know watching it myself and for other people, it was scary good what you were able to do there.
Thank you. I really, I mean, I was able to shadow Reese for a while before I was cast early on, and I asked, can I come out? Can I watch? And the set and Reese, everyone was so welcoming, and I sat in Video Village and was able to just ask her questions and talk to the writers, and they actually made a reel of scenes that they had already shot for Tiffany Boone, who plays Kerry Washington's younger self. And so we were able to watch these scenes, and I just spent a lot of time sort of in the book as well, unpacking Elena and talking with Reese about that and asking her questions and trying to get in the same sort of headspace as her character. But I've also been watching Reese like my entire life, and so I feel like when I close my eyes I can see her, but she did something very specific and different in this in the show, and so I would just copy her voice and watch her mannerisms, and I listened to her book on tape to listen to her voice. So I spent a lot of time in the character, but she was so welcoming and so open, and so, I mean, just a total open book for any for me, for anything that I needed, and I so appreciate her generosity.
Well, how much collaboration was there just between the two of you as far as not only nailing down all of her mannerisms, but also just the heart of who Elena is kind of as a character?
Well, I think the book, Reese created the character. I mean, it's Elena's in the book, and we learn a little bit of her younger self. And so she early on just told me specific lines and sections of the book that really spoke to her. And so I went back to those pieces and examined them deeper. But the younger Elena is different than the older Elena. So she's in the process of becoming who we meet the rest of the series. And so it's like, how do you get from the flashback episode is how did these women become these women? Why do they behave this way? Why do they make these decisions? And so I thought the writers did such a beautiful job of unraveling that and unpacking that and going to critical moments of decision making for these young women. And so it was really fun when we were on set. Liz and the writers and Nzinga, our director, she was fantastic, sort of charting, they're so specific. Like, I've never been on a show where the scenes will have a breakdown. Like, Liz had a breakdown of moments of like, we want this to hit, where this decision, this. So it's like building the pieces of the puzzle of like the thinking of the characters. And that was so helpful in constructing sort of like, I see exactly what they're trying to get, what they're trying to get. And so there's a real structure, but at the same time, there was so much time for creativity and to sort of emote and try different things. You know, I never felt like, go, we have to get it. It was, let's try this, let's try this, let's do this, let's do this. And that was really helpful in sort of also like, does this sound like Reese? No, it doesn't quite, you know, trying to curb it a little bit more into the Elena role. I haven't talked about this for a while, so I'm feeling a little rusty. I apologize.
No, it's been great. Yeah. Well, let's dive a little deeper actually into that episode. Elena is pregnant with her fourth baby, Izzy, and she's already had 3 kids. She's also working at her newspaper job. Can you talk about just playing Elena at what feels like a real turning point in her life, where she's really pressured into kind of prioritizing motherhood over her work?
Yes. I think that young Elena has this plan for her life, of how she envisions it. And she's very controlled, and sort of anything outside of that is extremely nerve-wracking. So I think this sort of like, you get the job, and she's been able to, when we meet her at the end of episode 5, the world is her oyster. She's in love with Jamie. She becomes heartbroken, and that's where we see her sort of start to make these walls. And like, if I protect myself, bad things won't happen. And I know that these decisions are right because everyone around me has made these decisions, and I've always been right. I mean, it's a lot of what we're seeing in our culture right now. Not that much has changed. And once the things she wants aren't bad things. She wants to be successful. She wants to be a mother. It's just the sort of, I think, justification and rationalization and negating of other possibilities. It's like my worldview is the right worldview. It's the best worldview. And as she's navigating this motherhood, it's like she has children. She loves them. She wants to do her job, but it's that position of like, it's a great scene with her mother of, she doesn't necessarily want to have the baby, but her mom spoke up for women's rights. And so it's that sort of like, but if I have the privilege of being able to have another baby, does that mean I want another baby? And I think that sort of hidden resentment of, I didn't want this child. I didn't want this life. I wanted it to look different. And I think that sort of sacrifice that she always just has to bite down is, and then have to rationalize her way through it. And it was really, I mean, I'm not a mother, and it was a really special experience for me because I was able to talk to a lot of mothers of like, I never thought about postpartum. What is that like? What does it feel like when your body is no longer your own and your boobs hurt because you're breastfeeding and you have a fever and your kid won't, it's like your job is to be able to feed your child and your child doesn't want to eat and you're and like the guilt and the shame of that, being angry at this little innocent baby. I mean, I don't think that would ever leave you. And so all of her decisions in this episode, as she sort of becomes unraveled, I don't judge her for any of those. And that was really a gift in playing that character, because I think we don't necessarily see those moments of motherhood on television. We see packing lunch or being a super mom, and not the sort of big learning points and reveals about the dark, scary parts of ourselves. So it was just a really fun experience to go through that with so many women around, also to be like, can you help me out? Like, what's this like?
Yeah, that must have been wild to just have to explore all of that. Yeah. So we also see her in her relationship with her ex-boyfriend, Jamie, and how she keeps going back to him, once when you're playing her, and then again in the present day with Reese obviously playing her. What do you think that he represents to Elena?
Yeah, Luke Bracey was so, I was also so impressed seeing him. He looks so different in each. I mean,
I
he looks
know.
like a different person. The way
I
that
thought it was two different actors.
I know, wasn't he terrific?
Yeah.
He's great. He is so much fun to work with. And I watched his scene when he was shooting with Reese in the in episode 5, and so I really studied their scene together and their sort of dynamic. But I think in episode 5, when Elena is, they're in Paris, they're in love, everything is exciting. It's young love. It's this possibility. He's a free, he's a free spirit and a free thinker, and I think he really challenges Elena. I think he's one of the only people, probably other than Mia later on, who maybe doesn't have the same values as Elena, or at least the people she surrounds herself with, and she's able to be a different version of herself, and not limit herself. But I think it's really scary for her. And so when she goes to Jamie, it's wondering, like, did that road not taken work out? Who would she have been? What would that have been like? And I think part of her wants to know that life is not the life for her, which I think she ends up sort of realizing. But I think it's also just the self that she could have been, and being able to sort of let go of these confines of a controlled life and imagine new possibilities. And that's definitely what Jamie represents.
And when you look at Elena, especially when she was younger, as you played her, and you know how fractured that relationship is and will become with Izzy, and how it really stemmed, I think, from her not really wanting a fourth child. Do you think about just what, like, who was to blame for what went wrong, whether it's Elena herself or Izzy or her husband, or just even the culture being what it was at the time? I mean, how much do you think about all of that stuff, or do you not find that particularly productive?
Oh, I think it's kind of like all of the above. I think all the confluence of all of those forces. I mean, it's when we as people make a decision, it's not because of one thing. It's a myriad of reasons why we choose the things that we do. It's who makes us, it's the morals that we were built into. It's our society. It's the relationships we have. It's if we have a faith, what that community says, just kind of everything. And I think it's also a lot. I think it's also just sad. If Elena, she has a 4th kid and she goes, I don't want. If she had said, "Oh, I don't think I can do that right now. I really want to focus on my career." What would her marriage look like then afterwards? What would her relationship with her mother look like? What would that life look like if she had sort of broken that social contract of behaving the way she was supposed to behave? And I think, she decides to keep Izzy. And I think rather than making peace with, I think the healthier choice would have been like celebrating her difference. There's a beautiful passage in the book about, it's sort of changed from the book. In the book, Izzy's sick, but that spark that she sees in herself, she sees in Izzy, and so she's constantly trying to squish it rather than let it breathe and become something that's beautiful and a light. And so by squishing it and trying to contain it, it ends up burning everything. And so I think that it's just the way that she was sort of trained to negate difference or want to control it rather than accepting it. And that's something so universal. I think that's something I do. And yeah, it's so heartbreaking to see, especially in the season finale. I thought the season finale was so spot on, and so that's my favorite episode.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely, I think, nailed that finale. So beautiful. Well, since I have you here, I wanted to actually ask, because you started acting from pretty young age.
Yeah.
Because of Winn-Dixie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I think it's safe to say you've made the jump now from kind of child actor to adult actor. Do you find yourself now sort of giving advice to younger actors who are in the position that you were in, just about sort of making that transition and, you know, being safe and whole within yourself in your career, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I just want to be a friend. I remember being a young person on set and so desperately, and I still do, wanting the approval of the people that I respect, whether it was actors or anybody who was older than me on set, and just wanting to sort of have that relationship and knowledge and feeling like it's a safe space. And I remember wanting that so badly. And so, yeah, I think it's important to see that and raise up young voices and empower them and make them feel comfortable in their own skin, and that they don't have to be anything else but themselves. And that the talent and the spark that they bring to the set is whole and full and good all on its own. So I think, if anybody has questions, I'm always open to talk, because it is sort of, I do think I had a bit of a unique journey in terms of acting from a young age. I stayed in school. I went to high school. I went to a public school. I went to college. And I look back and I'm like, wow, that's kind of strange. But it's also fun to work with young kids and think, I look at them and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so young. And then I think back to when I was 9 and having the same thoughts that I'm having now, like feeling like a total, full human being. And I still felt like a kid, but I hated it when grown-ups talk down to me. And so I try to never do that with young people, because they are so full, like they are so boundless in their own minds and possibilities. And so I think it's just really important to set sort of a healthy environment on set. And this one definitely was. Like, it was so exciting to see Reese and Carrie talk with all of the kids, and they really seemed like such a family and were so supportive of each other. And so just to be around a set and watch that happen was like, these are the women who are changing the game, and like I want to be on sets like the way that they run their sets.
Yeah, and I can just say, from talking to so many of you from the cast and the crew, including some of the younger people, that it feels like you did foster that kind of supportive environment. So that's nice to see. But for those of you watching now, hit like and subscribe for more Emmy season interviews like this, and head to goldderby.com to start making your predictions. AnnaSophia, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure.
Yes, it was so nice talking with you. Thank you.
Yeah.